Reality Transurfing, Book 3, Forward to the Past, by Vadim Zeland. Chapter 3, Coordination. The Battle with the Clay Dummy. Finally, I've gotten rid of the unnecessary weight of excess potentials. There is no more internal or external importance for me. There is no need to assert my superiority or to hide my inferiority. There is no fear before the present or the future. I have nothing to defend and nothing to conquer. Finally, I am free of pendulum influence, and I can start taking care of myself. If only that were true. The power of pendulums is very great, especially since people do not have any clue about it. You cannot speak of them as some secret society of aliens that are hatching a plot against mankind. Pendulums are an integral part of our world. They exert influence on people and execute their control with the help of energy informational influence. This influence takes place on 3 levels: mental, emotional, and energy levels. By using the strings of importance, pendulums are draining people of free energy. This is the way it has always been. But lately, the purely informational influence is beginning to grow with accelerating speed. The history of civilization totals to several thousands of years. However, over literally the past few decades, the picture has changed dramatically, much thanks to the newest achievements in the field of information. The amount of saved data on all kinds of carriers is growing exponentially, but the threat is not in the actual volume of information, but in the methods and means of its distribution. From all around, man is ensnared by the telecommunications web, which gets to be increasingly dangerous with every day that passes. You do not sense this danger, as the development of informational industry proceeds under the amusing anesthesia of new entertainment and pleasant comforts. It is blatantly obvious that the goal of pendulums is not to entertain their adherents, but rather to submit them to their power. The expansion and the intricate perfectioning of the information web results in a pendulum capturing an unbelievable amount of adherents at the same time. For example, the more people are watching the same television show, the more energy does the pendulum harvest. And the stronger the pendulum gets, the greater is its influence, and the easier it is for adherents to submit to the rule, do as I do. The pendulum rule works well and leads people away from their true goals. But now this process approaches its final stage, where man will lose his freedom of choice once and for all. One day, man will find himself in a situation where he is an element of a monstrous energy informational matrix. Man will be imprisoned into the box of conditionality and will turn into a detail in this machinery. The cell of the matrix will determine how its element should act and what it should want. As you know, science fiction has a tendency to, at certain time, materialize into reality. This is already an ongoing process, unnoticeable and steady in its progression, and there is nothing anyone can do about it. Submission doesn't necessarily require physical force. It is enough to shape the worldview of a person so that he simply would not have an idea about his freedom. Let me repeat that. It is enough to shape the worldview of a person so that he simply would not have an idea about his freedom. That is what has been going on right now. Maintaining one's freedom under such conditions is pretty hard. Thus, we shall once again examine a few aspects of how to defend yourself from pendulums. As you know, the only thing that a pendulum could hook onto in a person is importance. When it comes down to it, a pendulum could even hook onto the fact that you are attaching great significance to the actual necessity of keeping importance to zero. Everything that has been said about pendulums is extremely serious. But here is the paradox. If you now, with all your seriousness, declare war on pendulums, then you are already destined to lose. The main principle in fighting a pendulum is to refuse fighting it. Let me repeat that. The main principle in fighting a pendulum is to refuse fighting it. You need to understand that it is not a fight with a tangible opponent, but a battle with a clay dummy, a game. More specifically, it is up to you to decide what this battle will be. If you view it as a battle, then in any case you are in danger of losing it. You cannot defeat a pendulum in a battle. Let's assume you've challenged the dummy. I know that it is nothing but a clay dummy. I'll show him. That's it. Consider yourself defeated. If, however, you see it as a game, then in the worst case scenario, you are in danger of losing a game, but not the battle. A pendulum remains a clay dummy while you are still aware of the true nature of its game and do not submit to its rules. Let me repeat that. A pendulum remains a clay dummy while you are still aware of the true nature of its game and do not submit to its rules. Pendulums will lie in wait for their victim every time you feel confident. Be prepared. They will try to get you out of balance in any way possible. That is the nature of their game. You swallow the bait, lose your balance, get beside yourself, and give your energy to the pendulum. Now you are calm, happy, balanced, but that doesn't last long. A pendulum will set up a provocation. For example, you get involved in an unwanted situation, or you receive bad news. According to the pendulum script, you should be worried, frightened, despair, lose your spirit, and show your dissatisfaction and annoyance. All you need to do is to wake up and remember, in time. What kind of game is going on? All you need to do is wake up and remember in time what kind of game is going on, and then immediately drop importance. If you do it consciously, the pendulum will fall through emptiness. You can break the rules of the game only if you are not sleeping, awake. Let me repeat that. You can break the rules of the game only if you are not sleeping awake. In a non-lucid dream, man is always a victim of the circumstances. The dream happens to you, and you are unable to do anything about it. In reality, everyone is long used to reacting automatically and in a standard way to negative influences. I don't have to explain what comes next, but you are not an oyster, and you are quite capable of reacting inappropriately. Do it intentionally, and the pendulum's plans will be spoiled. You just need to come to your senses in time and break the rules of the game. Let me repeat that. You just need to come to your senses in time and break the rules of the game. See for yourself how nice it is to realize that you are aware of the way a pendulum is trying to provoke you best it can, but you do not give in. The nice feeling will not only stem from you being proud of yourself, such a strong individual. The thing is that by giving energy to a pendulum, you get weaker. When a pendulum is provoking you, but you do not give in to its provocations, the energy of a pendulum which was spent on provocation goes to you. Let me repeat that. When a pendulum is provoking you, but you do not give in to its provocations, the energy of the pendulum, which was spent on provocation, goes to you, making you stronger. And this additional strength will appear as a nice feeling. Now you can imagine how great a pendulum is feeling when receiving your energy. Do not provide it with such an opportunity. The pendulum will bother you again and again, but do not give in. Let it spend its energy on you. While playing this game where you break the rules, do not yield to the temptation to get angry with the game itself. While you are playing consciously, but in a fun and casual way, you and the clay dummy are fighting each other using little sugar sabers. There is nothing he can do about you. If you have broken the rules of the game and maintained your balance, the clay dummy will fall apart. But as soon as you start to lose your temper, the little sugar saber of the pendulum will turn into a dangerous blade. A game like that could turn into a battle and result in an induced transfer for you. Do not fight your reaction to the provocation. Look at it differently. Let me repeat that. Do not fight your reaction to the provocation. Look at it differently. Emotions are a consequence, the cause of which is attitude. You should consciously choose your reaction to the negative factor. It is not hard to show an inappropriate attitude because you know yourself that it is only a game. Let the jester jump around. It is as if you are fighting an invisible opponent in a room where there are only mirrors. It seems that the pendulum is right here, nearby. But in reality, you do not see the pendulum or even its reflection. Reflected in the mirror is your importance. When something is of excessively important significance to you, you have an opponent, and he is constantly looming in the mirrors. If, however, the importance is zero, there is nothing to fear, nothing to defend, and no one to attack. The mirrors of significance will shatter into pieces, and you will see that the clay dummy has been disintegrated. You do not need firmness in the battle with the pendulum. Emptiness is by far more efficient. Let me repeat that. You do not need firmness in your battle with the pendulum. Emptiness is by far more efficient. The terms invulnerable, nerves of steel, iron will, steadfastness, endurance, self-control, and others imply defense, tension, readiness to fight back. You need a lot of energy to maintain such a protective field. As you understand, all this energy goes to feed the pendulum. But if I am empty, there is no need for me to maintain a protective field. Energy is not being spent. The clay dummy falls through emptiness and into pieces. All that is required of you is to always keep in mind the rules of the game and to consciously maintain importance at zero. Let me repeat that. All that is required of you is to always keep in mind the rules of the game and to consciously maintain importance at zero. The necessity to keep importance at zero should not grow into a constant combat readiness to reflect any attack. Let me repeat that. The necessity to keep importance at zero should not grow into a constant combat readiness to reflect any attack. In that case, you are attaching too excessive significance to the actual game. Relax and let yourself lose from time to time. You shouldn't strive towards being victorious no matter what. While you are holding your grip, the pendulum can manipulate you. It will wag you like a dog by the stick that it doesn't want to let go of. If the game is not fun to you, then show maximum indifference and lose without caring about it. If the pendulum has won this time, do not be stubborn and agree that you have lost this particular game. You have lost balance and temper, and there is nothing special about that. Do not blame yourself. The next game will be yours. Just do not tell yourself that this is the last time. Don't set ultimatums or traps. Let me repeat that. Just do not tell yourself that this is the last time. Don't set ultimatums or traps. You are not setting an ultimatum for yourself, but for the pendulum, and that is exactly what the pendulum is waiting for. This ultimatum is nothing but a powerful wall of defense. Having erected this protective wall, you turn the game into a battle, in which you will inevitably suffer a defeat. Be prepared. Pendulums could provoke you gently and ingratiatingly. Let me repeat that. Be prepared. Pendulums could provoke you gently and ingratiatingly. Many people bending under the weight of problems find support in cigarettes, alcohol, drugs. If you are once again trying to quit a bad habit and tell yourself, this is it, this is the last time, it is not you talking. This is the pendulum that has captured your inner thought radiation to such a degree that it can literally impose thoughts on you. Every time when you promise yourself, trying to convince yourself that, I'll do this just one last time and then that is it. Wake up and shake off the delusion. This is a pendulum speaking. Being aware of this fact will help you to indifferently give up the bad habit. Not decisively, but indifferently. Pendulums stop at nothing in their attempts to attract adherents. Everything goes. They have completely emasculated everything holy, starting with ethic principles and ending with religion. The world is the manifestation of the united spirit, the consolidation of unity in multitude. Divine essence penetrates all living and all non-living things. God is in every one of us. We have already talked about this when we likened the human soul to a drop in the ocean. As soon as God, by his manifestation, declared to people that he exists, pendulums instantly brought religion under their control. You can see for yourself if you turn to the original 10 Commandments. The first commandment, in different interpretations, comes down to the following. I am the only God, and thou shalt not have other gods. This statement requires a person to believe in the existence of one God, ruling the entire creation. People immediately broke this commandment and created plenty of religions. Pendulums. More specifically, people allowed themselves to be submitted to the pendulums of religion. These pendulums are hiding behind the name of the Lord. Actually, the ministers of faith have a sincere aspiration to preach the word and the work of the Lord. But being adherents, they are in the power of a pendulum. Thus little depends on them. After all, do religious wars and conflicts please God? The second commandment, thou shalt not make for thyself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down to them or worship them. This was also said about pendulums. A pendulum submits adherents to its will and makes them act in its own interest in any situation, regardless of the good intentions this whole thing is hiding under. But basically, one could reduce all the commandments into two by answering the question asked by one of his students. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The whole of the law and the prophets depend upon these two commandments. Love God in yourself and in others without worshiping pendulums. That is all the commandments urge you to do. When it comes to influencing the psyche through the mass media, the most important thing here is awareness. Turn a deaf ear to any negative information. Everywhere you go, they are trying to interest you in something, entice you, and impose something on you. There is a pendulum behind any group of people. Adherents, doing the will of the pendulum, are often unaware of the true goals of the pendulum. Always ask yourself the question, who needs it and why? And do you really need it? At the same time, keep looking actively for information concerning your goal and let it inside yourself. Okay, your mind will start fidgeting impatiently. I know this already. And so what that he knows? He knows everything, but he falls lightheartedly asleep every time a pendulum begins its game. And so what that he knows? He knows everything, but he falls lightheartedly asleep every time a pendulum begins its game. Don't let pendulums take you by the hand and carry you away. In general, your task comes down to consciously break the rules of the game. Let me repeat that. In general, your task comes down to consciously break the rules of the game. You could do it in two different ways. You could either drop importance and make the pendulum fall through into the emptiness of your indifference, or you could extinguish it, having reacted inappropriately to it. Or you could extinguish it, having reacted inappropriately to it. If it doesn't really work out with the importance bit, then give preference to the second method. Any kind of inappropriate reaction to a provocation is a gross violation of the rules of the game. End segment.